To become world champion twice is certainly a good reason for celebration, and so champagne drenches the happy man. The world champion in this case, thanks also to his Czechoslovak CZ motorcycle, is one of the greatest and most popular riders in the world, the Belgian Joël Robert. If you make motocross racing your career, you must be prepared to travel a lot, especially if you want to win the world crown, for then you must amass more points than any of your competitors at 14 races in different European countries. The season begins early in the spring on the Mediterranean coast of Spain and ends late in autumn in the Austrian Alps. And so you find yourself first in the capital of Castile. But gorgeous and sunny as it normally is at this time of the year, Barcelona is almost always drenched with rain. Nevertheless, even in rain it is worthwhile to admire the 14th century cathedral and go sightseeing through the narrow Gothic streets of the city. This statue of Christopher Columbus serves as a reminder that already 500 years ago the world had its adventure-loving globetrotters, and that these brave men used much more dangerous and risky means of transport than the motorized nomads of our days. This is a true copy of Columbus's famous Santa Maria. Even weather-beaten motorists have great respect for the courage and skill of the seafarers of the past. Undoubtedly, Columbus himself would have gladly found a place in his crew for a man like Joël Robert. But let's return to our own century and to dry land. This is the Czechoslovak motorcycle CZ, which Robert will ride in the 14 races that count towards the World Championship competition. In Barcelona, his machine will have number 6. As you can see, a good mechanic must also be a good painter. CZ machines will also be ridden by other outstanding motorcyclists. Dave Bickers of England, Robert's fellow countryman Sylvain Gebours, Torsten Hallman, the reigning world champion, is riding on a Swedish Husqvarna. Another Swedish rider, Ole Peterson, has switched to a Japanese Suzuki. Marcel Weerts of Belgium has chosen Spain's own Bultaco. Vickers, a well-known curie collector, with his first catch of this year. The first race of the World Motocross Championship had a truly Spanish ceremonious opening. Graceful senoritas introduced the main favorites to the 40,000 spectators, and the Barcelona motocross held on the Sabadell de Circuit could begin. soon after the start, a mass collision occurred, but the victims were mostly local, less experienced riders. However, one of those who had to withdraw from the race because of injury was the well-known German racer Otto Waltz. Austria's Statinger, also riding a Czechoslovak CZ, continued in the race. Up in front, the favorites fought nail and tooth for the lead. Best at the takeoff were Wirtz, number 7, and Hallman. Rickman of England, number 15, and right behind him, number 6, Robert. The next collision eliminated Carrel of France and Ramon Costa of Spain. By then, Hallman, number 1, was in the lead. In the final laps, Robert made his way to second place, followed by Bickers. Both trot hard to make up for the time they lost at the start, but in vain. And here is the finish line, first to be crossed by Hallman. Joël Robert was second, Bickers third, and Geboers fourth, all on CZ machines. These points for first place were awarded to Hallman, while Robert began the season with 6 points for second place. Bickers got 4 points and Sylvain Geboers 3. Hallman hoped he would break what is known as the Spanish motocross tradition. No winner of the Barcelona motocross has yet won the World Championship. And so Robert, with his 6 points, left Spain for the second race quite satisfied. But even the second race, held on home grounds in Belgium, did not bring victory to Robert. The overall classification saw Geboers, another CZ rider, in the lead, but Robert dropped to number 3 position. And so he joined his mechanic, Victor Lahita, in a friend's home in Brussels to draw up plans for the races to come. In spite of the hard competition and riding during races, all motorcycle racers are good friends. They are a kind of boisterous family that crosses Europe from one end to another. There is perhaps no other sport where the competitors are such good friends. This year they were joined by another fun-loving member, the Spaniard Luis Flores. The next stop on the road to the World Championship crown was the small town of Holice in Czechoslovakia. Some racers brought their families along. Of course, none of the main contenders was missing in Holice. Lahita was pampering Robert's CZ. Torsten Hallmann. Because his Czech mechanic, Zdeněk Polanka, was checking the Englishman's CZ. Sylvain Geburs, another CZ rider. Japan's Suzuki, ridden by Sweden's Peterson, was trying to break into the great contest between Czechoslovakia's CZ and Sweden's Husqvarna. Mr. Peterson, 6-month-old Dick, and his great admirer, Robert. Introduction to Robert was also sought by the local champion in the under-6 category, Miroslav Hackl, wearing the famous Java dress. Motocross at Holice, too, has its traditional rain and bad weather. This time all seemed well, but as soon as the riders lined up at the starting line, the usual shower fell. It was short, but heavy. Winning a position in the lead right at the start is half the success for a good rider. It requires, however, a great deal of luck. It is therefore most interesting to watch how the champions fight their way forward when the luck is not with them at the start. There are many outstanding motocross riders, but as the season advanced, it became obvious that the world title would be won by Hallmann or Robert. In most of the races, they placed in the first two positions. In one race, it was Hallmann, 28, who won. In the next one, Robert. In 13 races, Hallman won 5 times, and so did Robert. Thus, in the final race of the World Championship tournament, held in the Austrian Alps, Robert had only one competitor left to beat, Hallman. Robert's mechanic, Lahita, was calm before the race. He knew that Joël's CZ was in perfect order, a fact that also kept Robert's mother and fans in good spirits. Robert himself tried to cover up his tension before the race by playing practical jokes on anybody he could find. The true Scandinavian, Hallman, chose a different kind of psychological conditioning. In spite of their rivalry on the trail, Robert and Hallman are good friends and true sportsmen in competition. An interesting introduction to the last motocross race at Launsdorf was provided by Austrian parachute jumpers. And then the long-expected race was on. Its main actors, Joël Robert on a CZ and Thorsten Hallman on a Husqvarna. At the close of the racing season, Robert reached the form of his lifetime. The weather, on the other hand, favored Hallman, who prefers dry ground. In the first laps, number 50, Hallman, could be seen among the lead riders, while Robert, number 60, was somewhat back. Then Hallman took the lead, while Robert was driving hard to get to the number 2 position. And here is the decisive moment, Robert catching up with Hallman. In the next lap, Robert was already first and stayed there to the finish line. To become world champion for the second time at the age of 25 is some reason for celebration. And if a large delegation of his fan club is on hand to join the happy champion, champagne pours on his head. And here is Joël Robert, the man who rode his Czechoslovak CZ machine to the 1968 World Motocross Championship title.